Μετά το βίντεο, με πλαστά ελληνικά διαβατήρια Εβραίοι μετά το Auschwitz.
What other resistance did you do to the British administration?
Well, eventually, two of the, and I found a picture of him yesterday. I never knew I had a picture. A fellow with the name of Urik Shari was one of the people that came from, I didn't know they were Haganah. I suspected as much. And those people were buying arms in Greece to send to Palestine.
They were manufactured in Greece?
Buying them. No.
They were
a Greek army they had found. And they had some problem with the lieutenant with whom they were dealing. And they asked me if I would go to translate. And they had UNRWA trucks. UNRWA was the United Nations Relief and Rehabilitation Authority. And they had a truck, an UNRWA truck, that had the UNRWA sign on side. And the guys wore British uniforms. The Palestinian Jews wore British uniforms. And I went 3 times. The third time, one of the Israelis, I call them Israelis now, said to me, that son of a bitch is going to betray us. The Greek lieutenant. Why do you say that? He says, well, I know. We don't trust him anymore. Last time. And as we're coming into Athens, our UNRWA truck, which had 2 floors, one in the underneath floor, we had 1 submachine gun and 3 pistols. That's all we got from the Greek that day. From the Greek army base in Thebes. And we were surrounded, and the British MPs came, got in the truck, right away picked up the floor, obviously.
They knew.
And they took us in, and they put me in I must say, they treated me well. And they told me they were going to send me to a concentration camp, not an extermination camp, in Libya, called El Daba. That's where they were sending the communists and so forth. And that's when I had to tell my father that I was arrested and so forth. My father didn't know that I was involved in this thing. My father did not have much of a leg to stand on because he was president of the Zionist organization, so he should be supporting that.
Was he shocked?
Very, very much so. And, of course, the first thing he did, called Mr. Blastaris. Mr. Blastaris came at 8 o'clock in the morning at the place where I was detained. And he said, Paliopodo, which means bad kid, you're giving me trouble. I'll get you out, but you have to swear that you'll never do anything like that again. And you'll have to leave the country. What do you mean, leave the country? Well, I don't know. Find out. But 3-4 weeks later, I got a notice to go to see a man who was representative of the Jewish agency, the Sukhnut. He was really the leader of all the Palestinians, which I did not know. And he told me, he says, you have to leave the country. We have a scholarship for you. We'll get you a scholarship. And through the American organizations, Jewish organizations, because I was caught on a Jewish issue, made arrangements for me to get a scholarship so I could leave Greece, because that was a deal that Blastaris had made with the British, that I had to leave Greece. And on a Tuesday, I received a message that I had gotten a scholarship from Harvard. Harvard I'd heard of, it was a good school. And then on Friday, I received a notice there was a mix-up that I'd gotten a scholarship from Iowa. Harvard I'd heard of, but Yova I never heard of. And so it must be obviously more American, more authentic American than Harvard. And besides, there was a movie that I'd seen, was called State Fair, that showed pigs in Iowa. And I thought Iowa was the place for me to go. So the letters we got was State University of Iowa, Iowa City, Iowa. So immediately my family became known as Yova, Yova, Yova. And
so you were
I got a scholarship
from
from
Iowa State?
No, State University of Iowa.
State
not
University,
Iowa State.
okay.
Ufran and Iowa State.
State U of Iowa.
In Iowa City. And I got a Hillel scholarship for room
Room and board.
for tuition and so forth.
Oh, tuition.
And room and board, I got a FIEP, which was a Jewish fraternity scholarship. And I got room and board. And I spent 2 years in the FIEP house in Iowa City. Then I started getting jobs and I moved out.
Okay.
That period where?
That you remained in Greece.
In Greece? Oh, they were very pleasant years. Very pleasant months. I was arrested in March. And then in
March of 45.
Yes, in December we left. In late November I left Greece. And I came to the States.
Now, when you were arrested, and then the Shachla found a way to get you out,
yeah.
Were you being kept in captivity?
No. He got me out and got me scot-free.
Okay.
The British owed him so many favors, he could do it.
All right. And so.
But the only thing is that I had to absolutely not be involved. I stopped going to the Zionist club.
Now, you did also mention that your father was active in Jewish cultural affairs.
Very active in Jewish.
Tell me about that.
Not cultural affairs, community affairs.
Community affairs.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
He was the head of the Keren Kayemet LeIsrael. Could
you say that again?
Keren Kayemet LeIsrael. That's the Jewish National Fund. That was the purpose was to get funds to buy land in Palestine, in British occupied Palestine.
And what was his position exactly?
He was the president of that. And he was very active in Jewish community affairs. And he was also in charge of helping Jews who have escaped from Germany or Austria and who managed to get a Greek visa through a friend of my father's. And my father had to make sure that they were Jews and not German spies, because the Germans had made a point of using that way in order to organize a fifth column in the countries that they were going to invade eventually.
How did he do that? How did he determine that?
I'll tell you one thing I've always remembered. One night, we're having dinner at my house, my father, my mother, and I. My father had come late, and after my mother complained that he was late, we sat down. And as we started eating, my father burst out crying. It must have been 1938. First I thought my father burst out crying because my mother had complained that he came late. I was very embarrassed, and I left the table. My mother came afterwards and told me why my father was crying. My father was in charge of making sure that the people who were coming through as Jews were Jews. There was only one way to find that out. And it was obviously a very traumatic way to ask somebody to lower his pants. My father had an office that had a view of the Acropolis. And when he asked as an Austrian professor of archaeology to lower his pants, the man burst out crying, and he said, "I've taught for so many years, by the Acropolis. And now I'm finding myself with my pants by my ankles facing the Acropolis. That was a tremendously traumatic experience for my father. The idea that he was humiliating a fellow Jew who deserved better. I've never forgotten it, and that's part of my rage of being Jewish.
That must have been very huge for you as a youngster to understand.
Seeing my father cry was a very traumatic experience.
What happened to these refugees from the West?
Those who managed to escape from Germany and Austria, they came through Greece because my father had a very good friend, a Greek Christian, by the name of Dimitrios Vlastaris, whose name is in Yad Vashem now. Dimitrios Vlastaris, Vlastaris. He was the head, officially, he was the head of the Aliens Department in the Ministry of Interior. Actually, he was the head of the Greek CIA. He knew where all the bodies were buried, or not buried yet. And that's why he had that position during the Greek dictatorship before the war, during the German occupation, and during the democracy afterwards, after the liberation. And he was the one who gave a lot of visas to Jews on his own decision. And he saved a lot of lives. He was also the one who issued our fake ID cards. And that's why I was known while the time we were hiding. I was Petros Livas, son of Dimitrios and Eleni.
L-E-V?
L-I-V-A-S.
And that was a Christian name?
Yes.
All right.
Stupidly, we took Christian names that were similar to our Jewish names, which was a mistake, but that's how we did.
All right. Now, where did these people go? Did the Jews of the community take them into their homes?
No. Most of them left Greece very quickly after. The whole idea was finding a visa to a country from which they could leave, because
and where
they did not.
And to what countries did they?
I think they were. Some of them went to Palestine. Some came to the States if they could find a way to come to the States, and some went to Australia and other places that I'm really not aware.
All right. So that brings me to asking you, during the dictatorship that you were growing up in,
Mm-hmm.
how are the Jews being treated in Greece?
Well, it was a peculiar thing. During the dictatorship, the government set up a fascist youth organization. And we saluted like this. And everybody who was going to school had to join.
Even the Jewish people?
In Athens, the Jews of Salonika, which was the center of the Jewish presence in Greece, were not allowed to join.
And what year do you think this took place?
That was 1936, 37, 38.
So it was a fascist organization.
And I joined it because I used to be a Boy Scout, and they dissolved the Boy Scout movement, and we all had to join it. So I wore the blue uniform with the white gaiters and the white tie, and I saluted fascistly.
Now, during those years, Hitler was coming to power, was in power in Germany. Did you directly associate with Hitler's regime? as part of this fascist youth movement?
We were aware of that. Many Greeks were not aware that this was a copy of a German. We happened to have the friends that eventually hid us, the Mandoudis family, had a grandfather who appeared in that picture that I showed you, who had been a general in the Greek army and had been exiled because of a coup, the usual things. And he was exiled in Germany. So during that time, he developed a very strong affection for German things. And I remember going to their grandson's birthday party in Athens, and when their friends of their German friends they had, who lived in Greece, would come in the Hitler Youth uniform, come to the birthday party. And I knew that was not very good. My mother always cursed them under her breath, those little boys. But we, the Jews of Athens, we were allowed, they never stopped us from joining the fascist youth organization. The Jews of Salonika were not allowed to.
Well, when you say never stopped you, were you encouraged to join the youth organization?
Very, very strongly. Like on Wednesdays, you didn't go to class. You went to the youth organization, and you better go.
What were you being taught, or what were you being encouraged to do? What was their
We were encouraged
thrust?
to parade, stupidly parade, and sing songs in praise of the dictator. But we were never taught any racial theory. We were never taught even other things that the Germans felt strongly about, the corporate regime. We were never taught anything like this. We were never that sophisticated. Basically, we put on the uniforms and stupidly salute.
So it was not a German propaganda instrument
No, it was not.
at that time?
No.
All right. How else did your life change in those years of the dictatorship?
It did not change in any way. It did not. My parents, my father, had his company, and
His business was not affected in
not
any
at all.
way?
There was no discrimination against the Jews in Greece, official government discrimination.
Now, during those pre-war years still, you knew what was happening in Germany because of the stream of refugees that was coming through.
Yes, we did. My mother, when I was misbehaving, my mother would always used to threaten me, I'm going to send you to the German school. There was a German school in Athens. This is a picture when I was about probably 2 or 3 years old in the park of Athens, and it is my father who's sitting on top of the little boy in the blue.
That's you.
In the,
right?
the little boy in blue sailor uniform is me, and my father's above me. My mother's the one who's hiding her face or just saying hello. The other lady is Mrs. Mandoudis, the family that hid us during the war. And their son, the little boy, is their son Sotiris, who unfortunately has died. Above my mother is Mr. Mandoudis, and next to him is General Rigas, who was their grandfather of the Mandoudis kids.
German
lover. That's right.
All right. That doesn't sound right, but...
General Rondiris.
Okay.
At one point during the occupation, and with Athens being under Italian control, we thought of going to the south of Greece, in the Peloponnese, and from there to find a ship those boats, the legal boats that were escaping from Greece, and would go. So in order to be able to go there, we had to get an Italian permit for travel. And this is the Italian permit that is my father's picture and my picture, and has my name as Giuseppe.
And what year do you think this must have been?
That must have been in, let's see, 1943. Yeah, 1942.
But this was never...
43. As a matter of fact, it is 1943. There is a stamp there.
This was never used.
It was never used.